Hey, San Antonio, Duke Jonitz with the Beacon. Welcome to another Beacon Report. Beacon Reports are special, and they have special people on. We don't do a video recording. Off most of the time, it's a written article. It may be an audio file, so you can listen to it in the car. But because of who is in studio today, we wanted to make sure that we were able to capture as much as we could for you, because you're gonna be blown away by what this ministry is doing local here in San Antonio and even beyond. And so we welcome you to the Beacon Report, and I want to introduce for you our guest. Elsa Ezel is the founder and executive director for Meant to Soar here in San Antonio, Texas. Elsa, welcome to the Beacon Report.
Thank you so much for having us here today. It's a pleasure to be
Well,
here.
I know a little bit of the backstory, right? So I understand that we're getting ready to really reach out and touch some hearts. So I hope if you're out there in the audience, grab a hold of something and hang on tight, because here we go. So tell me, Elsa, just a little bit about how Meant to Soar started. What in the world gave you the idea for it? Who do you serve? A little bit of info on that.
Yes, Duke, I lost my daughter 10 years ago. To start this whole story, no one ever assumes they're going to walk through the situations that my husband and I walk through. We lost her to both drug addiction and human trafficking.
Mm.
But prior to losing her, those 7 years were the hardest years of our lives. Um, Having lost our daughter, we were left with two grandchildren. And for the first time, my eyes were opened to how many children have been wounded by parental substance abuse and trafficking. Do you know for every one child in CPS, 24 are outside CPS being raised by kinship?
Didn't know that. That's a huge stat.
Yeah, it's overwhelming when you consider that, the walls that protect children is family, and the family structure is broken. And the enemy knows that, and he's coming after the next generation. And we believe that all children are meant to soar.
Mhm. So it's raising grandkids. As a part of that, also the experience with your daughter. I'm so sorry. And, and there were some lessons, obviously, that were learned through that. And so now, rather than, I guess, stay in grief mode, you and Charles, your husband, both desire to really make a difference, to try and ensure that what happened to her never happens again, to try and make sure that kids that are out there that are the same age or not as your grandchildren are going to grow up with purpose and calling, and especially with Jesus.
Yes.
So talk to us just a little bit about how, is there an age group for the kiddos that participate with Meant to Soar? How would somebody sign up, get involved?
Well, it's important, Duke, to first of all realize that children are resilient and they smile and they look fine on the outside, but there's wounding in the heart. And so we need to focus in on identifying these kids and giving them opportunity. Now, you ask about what age. It's a really interesting thing. We try to work between 6 to 13. However, our range will vary in time because when a child has been traumatized, often mentally they are stuck in that age. So sometimes we just recently had a young lady that was in her 20s, but she was very much like a 12-year-old. So it'll vary with each situation.
That makes sense. It certainly does. I did not know, though, that, I mean, obviously, we all go through some trauma in life, but I don't know that there could be a worse one than the death of a child, regardless of how old you are and how old they are. And so I'm first here that we're thankful, Elsa, that you chose to fight and make a difference, right? So we've got some kiddos, they've gone through something. I'm guessing that or a good amount of those kids that join up with you guys probably come out of the foster care system somehow, some way, whether it's kinship or foster care, either way. they're, as you said, they're stuck. How do you get them unstuck?
Yeah. Well, your first question about where do we find our children and how do we connect? God is faithful and He brings them um, through churches, word of mouth, a friend. Also, we partner with organizations like Grandparent Raising Grandchildren, with CASA. So, whether it's kinship raising these children or children have found themselves in a foster home or adopted home, a lot of people stop and they think that's wonderful. That child has a lovely in story. They've been adopted. But
Mhm.
what we don't often consider is that family now has a mountain to climb with a child with wounding. And we need to stand behind and walk with those parents who have adopted children. And Mentasor does that. We want to partner with them to help those children, realize that God made them with unique gifts, not only for them to have a good future, but to play a role in this society.
Mm, be a difference maker, yeah.
Mhm.
So, parents, if you've got a kiddo that's dealing with some stuff, wherever you're at, I hope you're going to breathe a big sigh of relief because Mentasor is here to help you. Tell me about what does that look like? I mean, how do you help
Yeah.
someone get unstuck?
Well, you know what? It's so beautiful is that children learn through creativity, arts, and play. They were made to be learning on the football field or the basketball field on the basketball court, how to play as a team player, how to be patient, how to lose, and just different skills. So Mentasor does events, and all of our events are free to these families. We bring in whether it's an author to teach the kids how he wrote his book, and that writing a book requires an illustrator. And so all the kids got to put their hand to a pen and write their own stories. And some preferred the drawing than they did the writing. So whatever the events are that we put on, it's to inspire children that they were created with great purpose.
That's awesome. But, I didn't really worry much about purpose until I was much older in life. Although I knew at a young age, it's at some point I want to run my own business or be a leader in the community somehow, but there really weren't any specifics. And so it sounds like you walk in with the belief, right? God created them and He gifted them. And so
Yes.
how do we figure out what their gift or gifts are? And then how can we launch them into a journey of moving in those gifts and just watching what God does?
That is such a good question because it doesn't just involve the children. For all of those out there that are reading your articles or watching your show, I pray that they would consider that they are a part of that process. We had a man who is has a boat, and he said, "I'd like to take a group of kids out on the boat and teach them about boating." I recently ran into a doctor that said, "I would like to have the kids come into my office and talk about the struggles it took for me to get where I am, but the joy in understanding the world of medicine." See, anything we can put these kids in front of, the goal is to figure out what each one are gifted with and what inspires them, all the while understanding that life isn't easy and struggles come along with every step. During the summer, we take a group of kids to the San Antonio missions, but we don't just take them so they can have a fun day and watch a game. They sit with a baseball player, and his goal is not to talk about how fast he can hit the ball, but all the struggles that it took for him to get where he is. Because we want the kids to see a realistic world
Yep.
that things are difficult.
Yep. Well, and obviously those things offer opportunities for Jesus to step in and step up, right?
That's
And,
right.
and walk it out with them. How does the gospel become a part of what you do, Elsa?
Oh, wow. The gospel is in the air we breathe. God is the author of all creativity. He's the author of every living being and everything we have. So we can weave God's truths into everything. We did an art class. It was a collage class, and talked to the kids about how just a scratched piece of paper torn up that looks like trash that somebody might throw in the trash may seem to have no value. But when you take that little piece of scrapped paper and you set it with another piece, you can create a beautiful collage piece of art. And sometimes we might feel like our life is a waste, broken, of no value, when especially when children compare themselves to other kids that have a
Yeah.
whole family. And then we show them how God can take and make something beautiful out of where we are in the circumstances we have lived.
That's what the image, I think, is to your right.
Yes, it is. If
Yeah.
you look at it closely, they're little tiny pieces of scraps of paper.
But put together, look what they think, right?
That's right.
Something amazing. So tell us about maybe upcoming events. I know you've got one coming up here in February and then a few that are a little bit further out that we want to at
Yes.
least mention. But I want to really have you tell us about what's coming up in February and to just give us the details, right?
Yes.
The
So
date, the time, where.
much like the collage art, where kids learned about a little piece of paper, and how what a difference it can make when it's put in its right place. On February 21st, we're going to have a watercolor event where the kids will sit with a real artist and teach them techniques. And they will get to not only draw and create their own artwork. You're right. We always have a mission in when we are with the kids. And so we're always looking for volunteers to join us when we have our events. In this particular event, the kids will learn how to do beautiful artwork, but all of their pieces of artwork will be done on note cards. When we're done with the art part of the session, we'll sit with the kids and talk about, in the Bible, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving. We approach God Almighty with a thankful heart. And we approach our life in the same way. And we'll ask the kids, who are you thankful for? What have they done for you? What good has come from that person being in your life? And we want to sit and talk with them and get them to share, not just thank you for being my friend, but why has that blessed you and how has that blessed you? And then with our volunteers sitting by the side of each child, we want to help them to write their thank you notes that they will send out, teaching kids that gratitude is just the beginning of a joyful life for one.
Well, and you and I both know, certainly you've got firsthand experience at it, that if I'm a kinship person, meaning probably grandparents, I guess it could be brother or sister, because your life has sort of been turned upside down as well. It's hard to even consider some of what you're saying, right? I mean, I know values are important and I know gratitude's important and I know all those things, but I'm cooking dinner and I got the wash after that, and then we're going to sit down and do homework. And so, what a blessing to have someone like Soar in our community that can step in and help in those areas.
Yes. Duke, one thing I think that we maybe don't think of often is children who have been wounded, they're really filled with a lot of anger.
Mm,
So maybe a gratitude is not something that is done very often because you're looking at the world from a painful perspective.
I thought
And
that, yeah.
so, when, the Lord has given us these principles to walk in for the good. In Proverbs, it says it brings healing to the bones.
Mm,
So
love it. Love it. Tell us again now, February 21st. What day is that?
February 21st, and it is a Saturday from 8:30 to 1:30. And we do serve lunch for all the kids that come as well.
Well, now you got all the boys for sure. All right. If you're going to serve lunch, they're going to be there. How about some of the upcoming events a little bit later in the year?
Yes. Well, again, it's so wonderful to partner with different organizations. We do have another missions event coming up where we take families to the baseball game. We also have a partnership with Houston Space Center, NASA. They will be sending one of their astronauts to San Antonio. So this summer, if you go to mentosaur.org and be looking for the date when we put that one up, In addition to that, we also always have our 5K in the San Antonio Zoo, and that one is September 26th. So that one requires a lot of volunteers to get that up and running, but we also want a lot of the community to come run with us. Last year, we had close to a little over 400
Oh my
runners.
goodness.
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
Well, and our audience needs to know that Elsa and Charles run meant to soar by faith. And
Yes,
so
sir.
what that means is they're relying on God to provide. And since God provides through his ambassadors, his people, right? We hope today that he's already tugging at your heart about what kind of a gift, a special gift, a monthly gift you may be able to send to Mentasor to continue. I mean, they are working with our future leaders in the
Right.
city. I'm convinced that some of these kids are going to grow up and be the mayor or an attorney or own a restaurant, be a business owner, right? And so we hope that as God tugs on your heart, you'll be generous. You can learn how to give at mentasor.org here in San Antonio. That's the website, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is, mentasor.org. And then you heard the call for volunteers. And, it can be sometimes easier to write a check or click a link to donate than it is to give our time. Time is the most precious and valuable gift we can give. And what an investment that folks that volunteer with Mentasor can make as they connect with our future leaders. Elsa, thank you for being on the Beacon Report today. And one more time, the website, Elsa?
Meant2soar.org.
All right, San Antonio, you heard it. There's a call going out. You can become part of the army of God and a difference maker in our city. Learn more at that website address, again, mentasor.org. This is Duke Jonitz with The Beacon. The Beacon reports on God's activity all over the city so that we can connect you, your passion, to purpose. And here's a great opportunity for you to take advantage of. We'll see you in a few weeks on The Beacon Report. God bless you.